Hello and welcome. So in this one, we're going to talk about the next one in the morning sequence, and this is between 7 and 9 a.m. This is stomach organ system, and it's connected to the earth element. So if there were two main sort of keywords that I'd like to sort of share with you and focus on, it's about grounding down and getting ready. We're grounding down and getting ready because this is essentially the period of the calm before the storm. Because in the next phase, it's action time. So this is our last chance to reconnect into the earth plane, reconnect into our bodies, and then use that sense of groundedness to bring our energy into the day ahead and manifest the dream state and information that we've learned and taken on from our dream space. And also using the momentum that we've already created to then move that through into the day. Okay, so let's talk about what does a healthy stomach kind of person behave? What is their behavior and what are their tendencies? So generally a good stomach person, they have a good appetite. They're generally grounded people, a grounded person, and those signs generally are, they tend to have quite an emotional stability. So that means they're not too sort of flaky or not too sort of bipolar, if you like. And they're also very what I call earth sensible. And earth sensible simply means they're really good at managing and working on the earth plane. So they're good at managing things like finances. They're good at sort of managing things like food, getting the house organized. They're very sort of just very good at sort of more hands-on kind of stuff. Whereas like a more fiery or airy kind of person is kind of more flighty. They're not so good with finances. They're not so good at the earth plane kind of stuff, just to give you an example. Another tendency is that these people tend to have really strong physical legs. So they've got strong calf muscles and they've got strong thighs. And this is really to show, and it's kind of a symbol as well, that there's a lot of chi in them. There's a lot of chi energy in their legs. So usually that means that they've got a strong connection to earth and they've got a good resource of earth energy down below, which they can access. Another sign that they've usually got strong muscles and sort of sturdy bodies. So again, they're solid. They've just got solid tendency about them. They usually got a healthy digestive system. So that means that they have little to no ill effects with most kinds of foods. So what I've noticed in this kind of, there seems to be an epidemic of people with digestive problems, irritable bowel syndrome, candida, allergens, this and that. And in the Chinese medical framework, what that essentially means is that the organ system is weak. And so when you're putting in any food that's a little bit strange or a little bit off, the organs don't have enough energy there to be able to process it. So the problem is really not the food itself, which I think people are focusing on too heavily and subscribing to the idea that they're diagnosing themselves like for a lifetime that they're allergic or intolerant to this or that. That's not the case, because if you can focus actually on strengthening your organ system, your body will adapt and learn to deal with most foods that come in. So this is a sign that the digestive system is a bit weak if you're really sensitive to a lot of food. And the way to build that up is basically building this stomach energy up is a good way of doing it. And one other way, I haven't got it here, I might mention the next slide, is actually weight training, physical exercise, because that really builds a fire and increases your metabolism. And also having sort of solid food. So I'm not a fan, Chinese medicine isn't a fan of cold food, raw food, and generally food that doesn't have any sort of warming essence in it. So no chili, no ginger, no cinnamon. And you can even see that in the yogas as well. So in the yoga diet, they want warming foods. They've always got some sort of herbs and spices. And similar in Chinese med. I'll talk about that a little bit more maybe in the next slide. So again, there's a good metabolism with them. Their body's able to deal with stuff. And when I'll talk about the next slide actually. So the way to support and heal the stomach is that a really good way to do it is in the morning between 7 and 9 is to have a really grounding breakfast. And grounding really means solid. Protein is probably the most solid food you can get, and also warm. So traditionally, it's things like congee in China. They got dal and rice in India, and soups and stews and things like that tend to be from the older traditions. What's not, and what is totally not helpful for stomach at this time, is having a really light breakfast. Having fruit only is really not a good idea. Coffee only is definitely not a good idea. And having no breakfast is definitely not a good idea. Simply because none of those foods provide a grounding, earth-based experience. So that means that the emotions will tend to be more flighty. The energy will be up and not down for the day. So when you go out into the world, you'll be there's a tendency for these people to be sort of flapped around in the wind, like emotionally, mentally, and physically. So that's why we want this strong grounding breakfast. And what if you're not hungry in the mornings? One way is to just you got to exercise before breakfast time. So doing weights, doing yoga, doing tai chi, qigong, whatever it is for you, get that going in the morning. That'll build your chi, strengthen your metabolism, get the metabolism going, and then you'll get hungry, and then you have a good grounding breakfast. And they're also realizing, like in the field of losing weight and scientifically, it's much more beneficial to exercise early in the morning than in the evenings, because you want to kick your metabolism into gear straight away or soon after you wake up, and that sets your metabolism up for the rest of the day. If you try to kick it into gear late at night, that's actually the opposite of, and we'll talk about it later on, but your system's slowing down in the evening. So hitting the gym in the evening is not ideal. Another way to ground is when you're eating breakfast is to take your time, eat quietly, eat slowly, and eat mindfully. So no TVs, no news, no newspapers, no digital devices playing, because essentially whenever you're eating and you're distracted, your body and your mind are disconnected. So you lose out on a few things. You lose out on the absorption of certain nutrition. Your digestive system tends to not be function as well. And if you think about it mentally and emotionally, you're actually trying to digest the mental stimulation. So if you're watching the news and eating at the same time, then you're actually sort of absorbing and trying to digest all that news stuff, which is actually terrible stuff to try and put in your system. So when you eat, eat quietly. Just give yourself 5-10 minutes of just chilling out. And if you have a view of nature, like out on a balcony or a patio, or looking out on trees while you eat, that's also going to be really helpful. And just generally don't rush it. So give yourself some time, because again, this is the calm before the storm. And I'll just wrap it up now. So again, the focus here between 7 and 9 a.m. is to get grounded, having a healthy, sort of solid breakfast, and then get yourself ready. So sort of mentally prepare. And the mental preparation is basically just taking a little bit of time out to gather yourself as we move into the next phase, which is action mode. Okay, so that's about it. I'll see you in the next video.